This is the Chris McCarthy Show on 1420 WBSM.
And good morning. We're back here live on WBSM, and we are really pleasure to announce that Sheriff Tom Hodgson is here in the studio with us. Good morning, Sheriff. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Chris. Thanks for having me.
So you've once again moved the needle, Sheriff. In my opinion, I don't know if if you're comfortable taking all the credit for it, but a year ago, March 28th, you gave testimony to Congress where you, among a number of suggestions, said if we start enforcing, as you said in your remarks, Title 8, Chapter 12 of the U.S. Code, that the city officials, the sanctuary cities, are harboring, sheltering illegal aliens, or attempting to, that we have to end that. And also, you point out later in your remarks that if we do it, this concept will probably evaporate because these people aren't going to go to jail over this, right?
Right. During my testimony, I was asked by Congressman King, he said, Sheriff, what should be done for these elected officials who are defying federal law? What should be done? I said, it's very simple. Issue arrest warrants. Mm-hmm. No elected official has a right to exempt themselves from following federal law. Title 8, Section 1324 clearly states anyone who knows of someone to be in this country illegally and attempts to harbor or conceal them mm-hmm. is guilty of a felony under federal law. So we have elected officials saying, look, I don't like the fact that immigration laws haven't changed. So therefore, I'm not willing to wait any longer. So we're just going to ignore the laws and we're going to create a special class of people. Right. And we're not going to protect the people that elected us to office.
Right.
To protect them, we're going to protect the lawbreakers at the expense of the many, for example, angel moms, angel dads who went this past Christmas without their son or their daughter because they were killed by these illegals that are coming in here. I mean, everybody knows that sex trafficking, human trafficking is out of control as a result of this. Right. There are people being killed every day in this country at the hands of illegals, and so.
Well, and Sheriff, just to remind the people at home, as I reread your remarks last night, because just to get her up on speed, if they don't understand why we're talking about this, it's because the Secretary of Homeland Security, she testified in front of the U.S. Senate yesterday and advocated that arresting sanctuary city elected officials, and said she's forwarded to the Justice Department for review. But as I was reading your testimony from a year ago, you started out with a story that happened right here in New Bedford of someone who was killed by an illegal alien.
Yeah, and we've had
tell the people at home who don't remember.
Well, we've actually had. I think I was citing Milford, Massachusetts, as a town that's had 3 people killed by illegals within 2 years. Right, that's one town. Right.
You in your district, you had Walter da Silva, the illegal alien from Brazil, who had been deported twice, who murdered his daughter, shot his daughter.
Yeah, because she decided that she wasn't going to be able to see him on Father's Day. She called him and said, Dad, I'm going to see you the day after Father's Day. I want to spend time with my boyfriend on Father's Day, but I will see you the next day. He didn't like that. She was coming home from the grocery store. She got out of her car. He walked up and shot and killed her. Now, look.
New Bedford. That was in New Bedford, folks.
Oh, of course.
People who are listening who think, it doesn't really affect me.
Listen. It's all over the country. It doesn't matter. Look, when the former administration was in, they were shipping people by air all over the country as soon as they came across the border and putting them in foster care homes. These kids, I don't know if you know this or not, but under the former administration, the Washington Post reported on an investigative report that they had close to 3,000 people on a list that wanted to be foster care parents for these illegals that were coming in.
Okay.
And they had criminal histories. In fact, the DOJ under Eric Holder told the FBI to suspend all criminal history background checks on anyone that wanted to be a foster care parent. Now think about that. You have kids coming from another country that don't speak the language, many of them rudimentary understanding of their own language, and maybe in some cases not well educated, being put in a foster care home. Right. In a country they've never lived in by people who are not even having a criminal history check done on them. And we know that sex trafficking and human trafficking is out of control. Right. Well, how in God's name could an attorney general think that that's in the best interest, not only of that child that was brought here, but what about the community?
Right.
And about you talk about promoting criminal behavior in our communities.
Right.
So, look, this boils down to one simple thing, and I think the American people get it, and they're fed up with these elected officials in communities in Somerville and you got Rahm Emanuel out in Chicago that are saying, I'm going to encourage these people to come here.
Right.
And I'm going to do everything I can to protect them at the expense of the safety of the people who were charged to protect.
Right.
We didn't. If you want to protect people that are in foreign countries or from foreign countries that don't have a right to be here,
yes,
go to the foreign country and represent them and tell those governments to get their act together.
Right.
But don't think that you're going to come here and create this haven for people to hide so that the bad guys can go and hurt the ICE agents that are trying to enforce the federal law, to hurt local law enforcement, to prevent us from working with our partners. What elected official, Chris, do you know in their right mind would suggest that law enforcement should have less cooperation to keep you less safe?
It's ridiculous.
Of course it is. And the average person gets it. And people are fed up with it. And now it's time. President Trump has asked these elected officials in a very professional way to follow federal law. They keep thumbing their nose at him and the American people and the legal residents who've come here. And what are these people saying, these elected officials who are creating these sanctuaries? What are they saying to the people who really respected the laws of the United States, honored those laws, did it the right way, waited their turn, paid the money? What's the message to them?
That's right.
You know, none of that matters. If you think that people should be able to come illegally, then you must think that we shouldn't have any laws that require anybody to pay their way, respect the laws, and just get rid of the laws.
And, you know, Sheriff, you're pointing out right, because there's so many great Americans who came to this country and became Americans the legal way. They did everything right. They stood in line. They paid the fees. They took the courses. And we're a better country for it. And then these people are just supporting the people who jumped the line. The other thing, too, is the people who are generally victimized, you back me up, tell me if I'm wrong here, by illegal aliens are people within the legal alien community, right?
The people that are back.
The people who the illegal aliens who come here and commit crimes oftentimes commit crimes against people from their own communities who are here
exactly
legal.
Right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. But you know what's interesting, Chris? You know, these elected officials, essentially what they're doing is they're basically saying, look, if you can imagine in a local setting, saying in the town of Dartmouth or New Bedford, of course, it's illegal to trespass on anybody's property.
Right.
But we have some people that don't have anywhere to live. So you know what? If they climb over your fence and get into your yard, you need to provide them a tent. You need to give them electricity to the tent if they need it.
Right.
You need to make sure that they're fed every day, that they have meals out of your own money.
Right.
If they need medical care, get them to a hospital,
right,
which you'll pay for. And also, if they want to get into the schools, put them in the schools.
Right.
And so the people who are doing the right things are being told, you need to support the people who are doing the wrong things, to violate the laws. And so what if they came over your fence? If they got over your fence, they get to stay.
That's right. If they got over the fence, they get to stay.
And the average person saying, wait a minute, why do I own that? And the other thing is, for all these people that are pro-illegal, how many of them are taking them into their own personal homes and supporting them?
Right.
Right?
Of course not.
You know, look, let's call this what it is. It's all about politics. These elected officials that are doing this, it completely defies logic. It violates the law.
Right.
And they just don't care because they're more interested in their own personal political welfare to get more votes than they are to protect the very people that gave them the privilege and opportunity to find ways to keep them safer. And that is a travesty.
You know, sure. The thing that's interesting to me is that I think they were playing a game the whole time, figuring nothing was ever going to happen so they could say whatever they wanted, right? And now that, you know, and even, you know, when you came out with your statement about a lot of elected officials, you know, Curtis Tone and some of them kind of tried to blow it off. Now, even some of them are still trying to pretend like this isn't real, that the secretary, she's a cabinet level, head of Homeland Security. It's as real as it gets, right, Sheriff?
Well, listen, it's as real as it gets. And not only that, look, I spoke to the Attorney General before I even testified before Congress. It might have even been a month earlier, where we had a meeting down there. And I said to him, look, you know, the only way we're going to deal with this is to send we can't send a message to the people of this country that elected officials can be exempted from following federal law, but you have to follow it as citizens. And the Attorney General, I got to tell you, I've worked with him when he was a senator on these issues, going back almost, well, not total 20 years, but I've been working on it for 20 years, and I've known him for a lot of years. And this is a man who is all about law and order. He's as straight as an arrow, and he's committed to doing what he can to keep the American people safe. And you know what? I am so proud of Attorney General Sessions because he hasn't wavered. He didn't waver when he was a senator. He stood alone many times. But he stood alone in defense of the people and didn't jump into the arena and play politics with it or figure out what's best for me. And, you know, the great leaders do that. When there's pushback in sometimes bigger numbers, you have to, the defining moment for a leader is when you think that there may be equal resistance or maybe a little bit less to your proposal, that you continue down that road because you know it's right for people.
Right.
And the thing about Attorney General Sessions and the president, frankly, is that they are focused. They're not playing little word games. They're not saying trying to deflect things away from this is about law and order, and following the law and equal enforcement of our laws. So they're that's what they're focused on. But what these other people are focused on is anything but that. And they'll say, well, you're a racist, or you're this, or you're that. And they'll start doing these name callings to deflect away from the underlying point, which most of the American people get, which is it's a simple question. If you come here, there's a process to get here and there's a reason for it.
Right.
Okay. We're the most generous country in the world. We don't mind spending our money to help kids get a leg up and people get opportunities for jobs, but you got to do it the right way. You can't just think that you can just, it's like waiting at a movie theater, right? So you're waiting at a movie theater to see this show you've been dying to see for a year. You're 10th in line. Most of the people are in the theater, and there's 6 seats left. And there's 16 seats left. So you're waiting in line, and suddenly they tell you after you've been waiting 3 hours, I'm sorry, there's no more seats available for anybody. And the reason there aren't is because there were 16 people that snuck in the side door.
Right.
And then the owner's like, well, they don't usually get to watch movies, so we're going to let them stay. And then some of them start wreaking havoc, yelling during the movie and all this kind of nonsense. And this becomes a habit. So you can't send a message to the people that do the right things. It doesn't matter. Right. Because the framework of our republic and the ability to have a democracy, a democratic process, is predicated on the laws.
Yes.
And the laws are what protect us.
Right.
And the last thing I would say is that if you look at immigration like the FAA, the FCC, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, they're all regulated by Congress. So let's say New Bedford has a flight plan a route that goes down to New York, but it takes them 20 minutes longer. They know a faster route that can get them there 20 minutes earlier, save them gas. Over the course of the year, it's a lot of money, right? Time for people. And then you have Mansfield Airport, who says, you know what, we need a route that goes down to New Jersey that gets us there a half hour sooner. We could save a lot of money over the year, time, yada, yada, yada. And we've been petitioning like New Bedford for the last 6 years for them to change this flight pattern, and Congress won't do it. Right. So all of a sudden they say, you know what? You don't want to do it, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go the new plan that we want and fly the way we want. Right. Do you know what kind of chaos you're going to have and catastrophic situations in the skies? We can't have that. No. And for elected officials to have the arrogance to think that because you got elected, that somehow that meant that oath you took didn't really matter. And you can pick and choose what laws you want to follow, and you can decide what special group of people you want to exempt from the laws. That's not America, not the America we know.
And it's also not the America anybody wants to live in. Even if you are sympathetic to these sanctuary cities, you do not want to live in a country where everyone makes up their own rules and we go at it. Because you're seeing that now, where the Obama administration didn't change the law, they just didn't enforce it. And now you have all these people who are stuck in situations that they never would have been in had the Obama administration not basically let them get into it. We'll take a couple calls?
Sure.
All right, great. We have the Sheriff Hodgson live here in the studio. Let's just make sure everything's up. Hey, thanks you so much for holding your live at WBSM.
Good morning, caller.
Yeah, Leviathan, yep.
Well, that's a great point, and
Thanks for the call.
I think that's what most of the American people see. They're sort of like, wait a minute, it's what I was saying just a moment ago. They took this oath, and so what? It doesn't really matter. We're not gonna live up to our oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the country. We're just going to do whatever we think we want to do, and you just have to put up with it, people. And if you lose a family member because I sheltered somebody that otherwise could have been held inside a jail, but for the fact that you had a law that said no, you can't contact the immigration people to grab this guy so he doesn't go out and hurt somebody. Well, so what if you lost a son or a daughter? So what? And you know what? I can't think of anything more insulting and really depressing to know that any elected official would feel that callous and arrogant to say none of that matters. What matters to me is putting everything through my own personal political filter so I can continue to get more votes.
We're speaking with Sheriff Tom Hodgson on the immigration and what I believe to be his idea to arrest elected officials who run sanctuary cities. He proposed it a year ago to Congress. Department of Homeland Security is now following through on that. We're going to take a quick break. If you want to join us, you can at 508-996-0500. We'll be right back.
The talk of New Bedford, 1420 WBSM, New Bedford's news talk station.
Did you know that Pioneer Basement Service Department is now called the Sump Pump Geeks? We call them that because they love sump pumps. They love replacing them. They love repairing them. We do all brands and service all systems. They're crazy about sump pumps, so why not give them a funny name? So when you have a problem with your sump pump, remember, call the Sump Pump Geeks, 1-800-649-6140, or visit us on pioneerbasement.com.
Cottage Street Motors, where buying a car makes you feel good, has a 20-year reputation of respecting customers and helping those going through hard times. Cottage Street Motors will put you in a safe car that they'll stand behind with a 30-day warranty with no interest and a small down payment. If you already have a car and it needs repairs, Cottage Street Motors can help. You'll love Ray and Sue at Cottage Street Motors, 589 Cottage Street, New Bedford. Cottage Street Motors, the people pleasers.
Muffler and Brake Complete Car Care are the experts in exhaust systems and brake services. They can also customize your exhaust system, check your ABS warning light, and fix your anti-lock system if it needs it. They also have all-new front-end alignment equipment to serve your alignment and tire replacement needs. Muffler and Brake Complete Car Care can also shore up your TPMS or tire pressure monitoring systems. And they're always ready to perform regular scheduled maintenance, general repairs, and oil changes. Muffler and Brake Complete Car Care, Church Street, New Bedford.
Have you suffered a reduction of income? Are you having difficulties making your mortgage payment on time? Are you a first-time home buyer? Have you made a late mortgage payment in the last 6 months? Do you need help budgeting? Catholic Social Services is a nonprofit, HUD-certified counseling agency, and we're offering workshops and one-on-one counseling to all. Our offices are located in Fall River, New Bedford, and Cape Cod. Please contact us at 508-674-4681.
New Bedford's news talk station, Chris McCarthy, 1420 WBSM.
All right, good morning, and we're back. We have Sheriff Tom Hodgson here live in the studio. If you'd like to call us, you can at 508-996-0500. Let's go back to the phones. Hey, thank you so much for holding. You're live with Sheriff Hodgson. Hello. I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
Well,
oh, Mike, your phone broke up.
what I was going to say is, the caller raises a very important point. He's talking about how that people aren't speaking up, but it isn't okay to sit idle when you're given an opportunity to speak up by the people. When you know that people in your community are dying,
right?
When there are cartels that are pushing drugs into our communities, we know that that's going on.
Absolutely.
The identity fraud that's happening is out of control. It isn't okay for us. We're the gatekeepers for the people,
right?
And not to speak up and say, "Hey, this is wrong. We have to correct it." It really is denying that you really have that responsibility and you're not willing to do your job. Right. And we all have to speak up now. This is about not just this moment in time in history, but more than anything, we have an obligation in our time in history to make this country better for future generations. Create an immigration system that's reformed in a logical, sensible way.
Right.
Because Congress has played political football with this for 20 years.
Yes.
And so, while the community debates this issue, what we should be doing is saying, you know what? I elected you to go down there and do my work. I didn't elect you to go down there and sit on the floor like petulant little kids,
right?
Or say I'm going to protest by not going to the state. Who cares whether you go or not? Honestly,
right.
That if you think that's meaningful as a member of Congress, what would be meaningful is if you went in there and listened, and if you came out with a different idea that maybe you thought you could go and sit down in a reasonable way and say, hey, look, why don't we look at this option, that option, instead of these sort of really shallow kinds of things that go on, these rants and raves that we see from elected officials that are spending the time doing that and nothing. How much have you heard? Look, we're almost we're a year into this thing, and how many things, except for the stock market and the other things that the president's been pushing,
right?
How much have you heard coming from the other side? Everybody's arguing with each other over words and this and that. How about arguing over the fact that we have people out there that are hungry,
right?
That people aren't getting medical care,
right?
Whatever it is. How about arguing for the people that put you there,
right?
And do their work, right, and stop with your shallow little petty politics that you're involved in at the expense of everybody else being put on hold. We owe it to the future generations.
No, we're really we're at a very interesting moment in this country, and I'm lucky to be on the microphone and have an opportunity to have a voice in it. Very happy, very, very happy to have you in the position that you're in, Sheriff. Although I'd love to see you in the U.S. Senate, but you don't take me up my offer. That's fine. But Sheriff, let me ask you a quick question. I want to transition to this project that's going on TV coming up. But I just want to ask you a question. Would you be willing to allow any of these sanctuary city officials to come spend a night or two in your jail to understand what they really were facing in the future if they defy the federal government?
Oh yeah, well we
maybe Joe Curtis can come spend a night.
It's funny you're saying that. We just left the Holy Family Holy Name School where we have an actual full-size mock cell that we take. It's a modular unit.
Really?
We were at the Atlanta Charter School yesterday talking to kids about it. We put a kid in the cell. I ask for volunteers. They never know what they're volunteering for.
Right.
And then I get all the volunteers to stand up, and whatever one picks the right number, then they find out what they really volunteered for, and they stay in there the whole time.
No kidding.
And then they're allowed to come out after and talk about it. But yeah, I mean, look, some of them may find out, but I'm going to tell you this. I remember Curtatone when I first was testifying, and this thing hit national news that back in last March or whatever it was. And I remember Curtatone on coming on national TV and saying, "Well, tell the sheriff to come get me." Well, I'm going to wait and see how many of these people like Curtatone and these others are going to stand up now and say, "Tell the secretary and the DOJ to come get me." Because you know what? I mentioned it back then. Be careful what you ask for,
right?
Because this country is founded on law and order, and the only way you can keep order is if you enforce your laws. And the only way you can get the trust of the people is if it's applied equitably for everyone. And we're not going to have elected officials deciding, hey, I'll pick and choose what part of a federal law I want to follow or not. You people, make sure you pay my taxes.
Right.
If you think that a city or a town or a mayor is using the tax money for something that you don't personally agree with, and you say, hey, you know what, I don't like what you're putting some of that money towards, so I'm not paying taxes, what do you think is going to happen?
Take your house. We're going to take a very quick break. When we get back, folks, stick around, because when we get back, we're going to shift here. There's something very important coming up. Sheriff's going to be on television television, the show 48 Hours. It's got a whole thing coming up. We're going to talk all about that when we get back.
1420 WBSM, New Bedford's 21st Century Newsroom.
Getting the facts right every time.
Every local story you hear on the air is posted in full detail online and updated with all of the latest information. All for you and all for free.
Covering New Bedford news on the radio and online. 1420 WBSM.
Evicted.
Foreclosure.
Illness.
Addiction.
Job loss.
Not all homeless and hungry people look like they live on the street. Hundreds of adults and children experience homelessness every year within the city, and on any given night, it's estimated that at least 50 people are without any kind of shelter, sleeping outside, in cars, in abandoned buildings, wherever they can. Rise Up for Homes is a campaign working to build awareness and raise funds to meet the needs of individuals and families in our community. Your donation will help them keep open a cold weather shelter every winter and help them improve and create better access to prevention services and create more affordable housing solutions for people in need. Homelessness can happen to anyone, anywhere. You can impact someone's life by texting RISE UP to 50155 to make a donation or visit riseupforhomes.com.
Follow the world's best golfers at the 82nd Masters Tournament, April 2nd through the 8th on the tournament's official website, masters.com. Log on all week long to experience a tradition unlike any other, and follow the Masters on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Masters.com offers live full-screen HD video coverage, including the Par 3 contest, plus real-time scoring, up-to-the-minute tournament news, and more. Masters.com, your official online source for the 2018 Masters.
Did you know the average cost of a wedding in 2016 was $35,000? Right? During the Fun 107 Wedding Show, Westport Federal Credit Union will be offering special wedding and honeymoon loans to make your special moments memorable and affordable. Visit their booth in our sponsor showroom for special details. Engaged couples that are pre-registered at fun107.com are automatically entered to win an all-inclusive Viva Resort trip, courtesy of dinner for two. Visit fun107.com for more details.
Breaking South Coast stories. It's just what he does. Chris McCarthy, 1420 WBSM.
All right, well, we're going to take this call in a second, but Sheriff, tell us about what's going on with this new book, the James Patterson book that features you. I read it in the New York Post. So my regular listeners know I told them all about it. And there's a 48-hour show coming up?
Yeah, there's this Saturday. 48 Hours is going to be doing their show on the life of Aaron Hernandez,
right? Which
will be a very interesting show. I'm excited to see the different people that they've interviewed. I think they've talked. I understand they've talked to some friends, his coach down in Florida, and really take a look at what their perceptions are and see where things line up and if the common denominators. Just, certainly from my experiences with them, I want to see if there's more validated by what I hear from other people.
Yeah, I read the excerpts of the book that were in the New York Post. It wasn't anything new to me, only because you and I have talked about it. We talked about it here on the air, about the way you dealt with him and talked to his father, and read the Bible, these things that were in the book. And I knew that they were accurate because you had told them to me. Sometimes you read something, but it was accurate. So very interesting. It's a very interesting case. We'll go back to the phones and see what the folks have to say. Thanks. You're live on the air with Sheriff Tom Hodgson.
Good. How are you?
Excellent. How are you?
Well, I think
they're in the discussion of that. Isn't that DACA?
Yeah. DACA. They're talking about DACA. The reason that none of this stuff has been done, I can give you the honest answer. I remember 20 years ago when I was working on immigration reform down back and forth to Washington, working with Representative Henry Hyde and Barney Frank in a bipartisan way. We were able to actually get a partial reform through the House. I remember going to Senator Kennedy's office at the time and saying, look, we really got to get this thing through the Senate. And the chief of staff at the time said, look, that's never going to happen. I said, what do you mean it's not going to happen? It already made it through the House. No, this is an election year coming up, and there's no way it'll go through. I ran into Senator Orrin Hatch, and we were walking from a hearing room, and I was lobbying him on this thing, and he said, listen, he said, Sheriff, I'm not anti-immigrant. He said, I'm for reform. He said, but what's happened is the Democrats have now said that the current bill that we were looking at, that they want to allow the transportation of prostitutes across state lines not to be a deportable offense. And there was one other thing. And he said, there's no way I would ever agree to that. And what I learned over the course of 20 years was that this was really a game. So it was who could make the other party look less appealing to the immigrant community by putting roadblocks in the way to keep this thing as sort of a, an election sort of barometer or indicator to try to sway votes. And that's why, look, there's no reason why we couldn't have people sitting down that are supposed to be sensible people, roll your sleeves up, get in a room and talk about E-Verify. Okay, work that one piece, get that done. Right. Then I think how much we could have accomplished over that 20 years, even if you did one of those issues every year. If you want to increase the numbers of people coming in legally, then you take care of that. But we would have had a complete reform. But instead, we've waited and wasted 20 years of people playing political football with the lives, literally the lives of American citizens and legal residents, and even the lives of people who otherwise rightfully would have had an opportunity if they increased numbers and done things in real reform to give them an opportunity. And so now we have chaos because people are saying, well, it's taken too long and too bad, so here's what we're going to do. We're just not going to cooperate.
And, Sheriff, I think a key component to this was, and it goes all the way back to a year ago, March 20, and you can find his testimony online, folks, from March 28th last year, where you said, here's a couple of things that are broken. One of them was the sanctuary cities, that's a magnet. That as long as we have that, and the idea that these elected officials are inviting people to come to the country is not stop. I mean, we can deal with perhaps all the people that are here now, right? Figure something out for them. But if it just keeps coming and coming and coming because you have elected officials playing a game. But I also think you were right in your testimony when you predicted that if they have any fear themselves of being prosecuted, all this will end.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to see, right?
We're going to see.
We're going to see.
And hopefully the DOJ will be able to enforce this.
And you're on tonight on Fox News.
Neil Cavuto.
Yeah, he's Fox.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
4:30. So this is just, I just want everyone to understand just how big of a story this is. If they're just hearing this for the first time, the sheriff gave us an exclusive, and I really appreciate that you coming in this morning, Sheriff, to talk about this because you're the guy I think who initiated it, and this story is going to be all over the place by tonight and tomorrow.
We're all in this together. I'm so pleased that Secretary Nielsen has stepped up and said, look, enough's enough. It's time. I know the Attorney General. I know how he feels. He's very committed to keeping this country safe and upholding the laws as they are on the books. If you change the laws, we'll follow those laws. But in the meantime, don't ask law enforcement and sheriffs and everyone else across this country to violate their oath because you just don't happen to think things have happened fast enough. There's a process. Follow it. And when it gets changed, we'll follow whatever laws are in place.
Excellent. Hey, thank you again, Sheriff, for coming in. Really, really appreciate it. Keep doing all the good things you're doing.
And thanks for what you're doing. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I mean, you're a great talk show host, but in addition to that, talk radio, I believe, is going to be the real catalyst that's going to move this country back to making it.
Thanks so much, Sheriff. Folks, stick around for the local national news, and then we'll be back for the next hour. You can give us a call at 508-996-0500.
Bedford's News Talk Station. New Bedford's News Talk Station. 1420 WBSM. New Bedford, streaming worldwide on the WBSM app and on WBSM.com.